Welcome to Illustrated Beards, brought to you by the Fantasy Shop, best in comics and games since 1981. I'm Jason.
I'm Nate.
And this is week 2 of our customer spotlight. Tonight we are talking with Kip Gilomen. Kip, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So comic reviews tonight. Collider, #1 from Vertigo. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, issue 24. Kip has chosen Batman Inc. #13, which is the conclusion to the Batman Inc. saga. So, Nate, you want to start us off tonight?
Sure. Yeah.
Right on.
Collider #1 from Vertigo. It's written by Simon Oliver and art is by Robbie Rodriguez. It's a world where you call 911 and they ask, is your emergency fire, police, or physics related? And a world where gravity just decides to stop working in certain places.
And the Federal Bureau of Physics is called in to repair these rips in the FBP. Yeah, it's called in to repair these rips in gravity.
And what's really cool is, you know, having a science career individuals in this whole thing. It's just it's that touch of realism.
The main character calls himself kind of like in a live fast, die young kind of phase. And it's funny because like to have that job you would have to be like an MIT type guy.
Sure.
And it's an interesting juxtaposition. It's a world where theoretical physicists are first responders.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even seem like it's a research field in this world. It is a like, get on the scene now, help, because gravity doesn't work.
Yeah. It's just whimsical how you're treated to a bunch of high school kids that are taking advantage of this broken pocket of gravity.
Yeah, the principal's like, you all got to do. Yeah, it's great.
The principal comes in. How would you deal with that situation if kids were just flying in the air?
You know, sometimes you just got to handle situations as they occur. You know, scientists in the field and you know, they're really making split-second decisions. And so they need to know what they're talking about and what they're doing. Otherwise, somebody could get hurt.
It implies there's going to be something to do with like alternate dimensions, and it also implies that not what you would immediately think when you think of alternate dimensions. I don't know what the next issue is going to bring.
We've seen enough science fiction. We have a clear-cut understanding of what an alternate reality would represent. Yeah. From what they're implying, they're going to present us with a new idea of what an alternate reality would be.
Takes you right up to that brink of what if, and then, oh my gosh, it's really happening. How do we deal with this situation?
Yeah, it's exactly. And it seems like the normal world, and then all of a sudden there's some strange variable. It made it really easy to jump into this. It didn't feel like a first issue. It's clear that everything's already happening when you jump on.
Yeah, they don't really explain anything to you. You kind of figure it out along the way.
And they did an amazing job of that.
I think with it being a #1 issue, it's a great time to jump in, and you know, if you haven't read Vertigo, it's a chance to see what it's all about.
Vertigo is one of the publishers that got me into comics.
If you're into, you know, capes and the various popular Big 2 things, I mean, it's definitely a chance to get out of the comfort zone and read a really interesting title.
This convinces me that Vertigo is still awesome. It's still what it was when it had Hellblazer.
Collider #1 from Vertigo. I mean, seriously, check it out. This is the first of what will be, I think, 5 or 6 new titles that are coming from Vertigo in the next few months. So it's a good time for sure to check out some of them.
It's quantum physics meets buddy cops.
Absolutely.
That's a good.
That is probably the best explanation you could use. Yeah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #24. I've never reviewed an issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and here we are 24 issues in. And this one was just so striking. I mean, I've been reading this since the beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's not your daddy's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You can be out there thinking, it's for kids and blah, blah, blah. It's honestly not. The comics were always very adult-oriented, and the book's been phenomenal. It's written by the same guy who wrote it back in the 80s, Kevin Eastman. And yeah, I mean, it's been a great read from beginning all the way up to here. This is part 3, City Fall. They've been building some different things with this story with Shredder and Krang and the Foot Clan. When we started reading this book, the Foot Clan was a myth. No one believed they still existed. They are making their presence known to the city. They have gone out and they have attacked New York. I won't spoil anything, but there is a major plot detail in this that changes how you view these characters.
And it's awesome.
And it shows up about halfway into the comic, and
5, 6 pages.
And it's just amazing.
The fighting is something that stands out to me in the Ninja Turtle books. We're talking about non-animated. You know, this is 2-dimensional.
Sure.
Everything's so fluid in the way that they're doing the art. I felt like I was watching a fight play out. Another thing I wanted to add is in the 80s, the comics were very much for the same kind of crowd that were reading any underground comics. You know, these are 20-something guys. You know.
Yeah.
And I think he's found a really good middle ground where this is not the Saturday morning cartoon. It definitely deals with some heavy subject matter, but it's not just straight up goofy brutality.
Yeah.
Another thing that I also liked is everything is true to the characters.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't taken a character and made them what they're not. They stayed true to the very origin of these individuals.
Yeah, it's really the best example of a reboot ever, and it's probably because it was rebooted by the guy that created it.
If you read it in the 80s, man, check it out again, because he redid the entire origin story.
If you read it in the 80s and you liked it, you're still going to like this. It's still going to have the seriousness. It's still going to have the goofiness of the comic.
This just has energy throughout from cover to cover.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's a fluid read.
It is great. The continuity that they've created for this new story has been phenomenal. I mean, it's so tight. There's no loose end that doesn't get tied up.
So if you're going to jump into this one, you better hurry up because we're on issue number
24.
I've only read the first trade up until reading this issue, and now I am kicking myself for not having continued reading them.
And City Fall is also a good place to jump in because it's, like I said, they're taking the fight out into the public eye.
And fortunately, most people have a general idea of who the Ninja Turtles are, so there's not too much that you're missing that you can't be filled in on through context.
Yeah.
But I do recommend going back and reading those trades because there's just a lot of really good interaction.
And it's a very good story for young kids, teenagers, adults, everyone alike.
So if you like the movies, this book will just blow you away. I mean, that's just the easiest way to say it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 24, City Fall will be volume 6. The trades are in the $15 range, so it's not even that much to get into. So yeah, check it out. It's on my shelf now.
I'm an old school type individual, no pun intended on school. But Batman Incorporated, number 13. What's really cool about this is that with Grant Morrison, he's a writer that comes full circle. He introduces something at the beginning of a storyline. Through the storyline, going through 1 through all the way through 13, it brings it all the way back, and it's an amazing journey to go through each of those titles to get there, or issues. It pulls from the past, but you don't have to read everything that's been from the past. There's a trade, Elseworlds, Son of the Demon, Batman, which many people know was Bruce Wayne. And Talia al Ghul. If you don't know that by now, you've missed a few movies. They have a son in Elseworlds title, and his name's Damian. And really, the Batman Incorporated is a way that Bruce Wayne is building up his own army of people representing Batman, or the Batman symbol, the Batman philosophy. You find out through the series that Talia al Ghul is in charge of the Leviathan, which is the opposing world.
They're essentially a terrorist organization.
Terrorist organization.
Yeah, worldwide terrorist organization.
Here's Batman battling his
love.
His love.
She definitely represents the only woman he's ever loved.
And through the course of the storyline, she had their son murdered. Because Bruce Wayne was not gonna do what she wanted in terms of follow into the family footsteps of the Al Ghuls. It ties into things into the past. You don't have to worry about not having read that. What's really cool is when you start reading this, the opening of issue 13, you got Commissioner Gordon interrogating Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's talking about this whole relationship that he had with Talia al Ghul, and you're flipping through the pages, and it's him as Batman. So you got Bruce Wayne talking about his life as Batman to Commissioner Gordon. At no point is Bruce Wayne saying, "I'm Batman."
Right. Yeah. They are represented within the confines of the conversation as two separate individuals, and we talked about it. I mean, if Commissioner Gordon does know, he doesn't let on that he knows, and we really have come to a conclusion that he can't know. I mean, within his line of work, he would have to arrest Bruce Wayne and put a stop to this legally. Yep.
I mean, without giving anything away, in the last couple panels of this issue number 13, wow. That's all I'm gonna say. You need to pick it up. You need to read it. Even if you haven't read issues 1 through 12, picking up issue 13 ties it all together. It's just an amazing story.
Yeah, I've always said there's a lot of conflict in our store about Grant Morrison as a writer. Some people love him, some people hate him. There is nobody in the middle. There's nobody who just says, he's okay. I mean, I have said, many times over, and I'll continue saying it, Grant Morrison is to Batman what Stephen Moffat is to Doctor Who. There is a a way that he does things where you're not going to have all of the pieces. And I think that's why people tend to not like Grant Morrison. His single issues can be quite confusing sometimes. And when we started with issue 1, we are looking at the end of the story at the very beginning of Batman Inc. If you read that first issue, you're going to be very confused, and you're not going to know what's happening until you can see all the pieces come together.
And it's almost after you've read it, if you go back and reread it, you start picking up on additional information that you missed before.
It's like reading it for the first time again.
It is, exactly.
I hear a lot of that talk about Grant Morrison being confusing. I've only read a little Grant Morrison in the past, and honestly, I am kind of in the middle. Most of the films I like are written in that way.
Okay.
Yeah, the circular.
Yeah,
first.
I like not having all the pieces.
Right.
I like the moment where everything falls together, and you don't get that in comics a lot. Doesn't mean I don't love comics. One thing I will say about this book is all the characters and a lot of the way that everything's framed is very Silver Age, and not in a bad way, and not even in a cheesy way.
Yeah, that is Chris Burnham's style. It has always been that way with his stuff. And every time I've ever read a Grant Morrison story, the artist that he chooses to draw his stories always have that style. I mean, he himself has admitted that he loves the Silver Age.
Yep.
He wrote a book called Super Gods. It's about how superheroes have affected the real world and how they've affected us as human beings.
He does an amazing job of pulling things in from the past. You've got Jason Todd, Knight and Squire, Man of Bats,
Batwing, El Gaucho
from Mexico,
from South America, Night Runner.
Yeah,
he was the Batman of Paris, and he does parkour.
There's so many different Batman versions, different qualities of of people that could carry on the Batman legacy without wearing the cape and cowl.
He's definitely created a group of people that far after he's gone will carry this message and will carry this fight long into the future, and will then train other people to do the same.
He's created his own League of Assassins.
He has, and that's why this book was so cool, because Leviathan was the enemy.
One quick thing I'd like to add is this is issue 13 and it's the last issue, which means that this entire series is going to be collected in 2 volumes.
Yes.
So there's very little excuse to not read this.
Yeah. And the reason it's the end is because Grant Morrison is now not going to write superhero comics anymore. This is his last opus. But yeah, we're running out of time here. A couple of things I want to talk about before we stop. I had to create a Facebook group within our page for the book club. So if I didn't catch your name in the initial member list, please find it on our Facebook page and link to it and click join, and I'll for sure, myself or Nate or John, will for sure get on there and approve your membership into the book club. This Friday, August 9th, from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. at all 4 of my fantasy shops in and around the area, we will be doing our Moonlight sale, which will close normally as the day ends, and then we'll reopen at 11 o'clock, and we'll stay open until 1. 20% off everything in the store.
Everything in the store will be at least 20% off. All of the locations, more or less, will announce either the day before or even last minute. We'll hand out sometimes a flyer as you walk into the store showing some deeper discounts. So it's an awesome time. All of the locations will be doing this. You could easily come here, get some stuff, and then drive across the bridge to St. Charles and find some other stuff that we didn't have here.
Sure.
And I know people who do that. I have done that.
Absolutely.
Before working here, so.
I just want to thank Jason and Nate for having me on and as well as on behalf of Hazelwood School District. I take great pleasure in knowing that we have alumni working in the local store, as well as the many job opportunities that I'm going to say comics offer. I mean, you got writing, you've got inkers, you got drawers. I mean, it's just amazing in terms of what it takes to produce a single comic. I've been a patron of this store probably going on almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
And it's just wonderful to partake in the school and community working together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. We're glad that we have somebody.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks
somebody in the
so much for
education
coming
business.
out. Yeah. But that brings us to the end. So thanks for sitting in and listening to us jibber jabber about comics, and we will see you next week.
And cut.